Honourable Member for Talbot. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'd like to thank my honourable colleague, who I sit with on the Public Accounts Committee, for his speech. It's an important subject for me, and I think it's an important subject for him. The lack of transparency and the lack of accountability from this government to Crown corporations. When they put money in Crown corporations, they can do pretty much whatever they want. And in the case of the foundation, that's a bit the problem that we're seeing here. The department put all responsibility and accountability on that organization in this issue. And we're talking about $1 billion of taxpayers' money. And we know that a lot of that money has been mismanaged. I'd like to hear my colleagues' thoughts on that.
I'd like to thank my colleague from Public Accounts for her comments and her question. She has done a fine job searching for or fighting for transparency from this government. It's clear from all the witnesses we've heard, including a whistleblower, the Minister of Industry was aware, the government was aware, Liberal MPs were aware, and yet at every point of bringing the information forward, the Liberal government suppressed this information. The government has got to come clean. It makes you wonder, they are allowing days of their agenda to be sidelined to protect the government from releasing this. You have to ask, what are they trying to hide that they're willing to sacrifice days and days of their legislation being held or debated in the House in order to cover up? Are they protecting the Minister of Industry? Are they protecting the Liberal government? Why are they not doing their job in protecting Canadians and taxpayers instead?
Questions and comments. Questions et commentaires. The Honourable Member for Chilliwack.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I wanted to talk a bit about the decision of the former Industry Minister Navdeep Bains to appoint chair of the SDTC, who was clearly in conflict, having received funds from that same program. Right. Did anyone warn the Minister of Industry, Navdeep Bains, at the time that there could be a conflict of interest? And if those warnings were given, what did Minister Bains do with that information?
The Honourable Member for Edmonton West.
I'd like to thank my colleague from Chilliwack Hope for the question. He could have just reached over and asked, but I'm glad we put it on the record. This is not a new program, the STDC. It's been around for decades. I guess not surprisingly, knowing this government, it got a clean bill of health from the Auditor General up until about the time the Liberals took over. Navdeep Bains fired the board that provided excellent governance, that gave SDDC a clean bill of health, and appointed Liberal cronies. There was pushback, warnings from the board, from the existing board members, that this would be an issue. Instead, he turned his back on the advice, he turned his back on governance, he turned his back on taxpayers, and opened up the trough for Liberal insiders. And that's what we're trying to get to the bottom of with this Green Slush Fund scandal.
Questions and comments. The Honourable Member for Sandwich-Gulf Islands.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I thank my honourable colleague for the historical reminder that this program was indeed around for decades and had a fine track record. It was created under former Prime Minister Jean Chrétien, and it was extremely well managed in the former administration of Stephen Harper. I say that also recognizing that my predecessor as the member for Sandwich-Gulf Islands, Gary Lunn, was the Minister for Natural Resources, and quite frequently trotted out the impressive statistics that there was a significant multiplier factor, that money given through SDDC was actually more than government money because it prompted other private sector investments in cutting-edge technology. It's a tragedy that the program skidded into what is clearly a reeking scandal. Can my honourable colleague, he suggested some of the responses, what do we do to fix it? Because it was a good program.
The Honourable Member for Edmonton West.
There's a simple plan to fix this. I'd like to thank my colleague for recognizing my friend, former Minister Marr. I used to live in Victoria and used to work with them. Sorry. Sorry, Gary Lund. I'm thinking of a different minister, but Gary Lund, I used to work with him when I was in Victoria, a wonderful gentleman. There's a clear answer to fixing this corruption. It's to fire the Liberal government and install a Conservative government who will fix STDC and have it performing as it was before.
It's a very brief question from the Honourable Member for Sarnia-Lempton.
And thank you to my colleague for his brilliant speech as usual. It seems to be a pattern of behavior, corruption and cover-up with this government. We saw that with the Winnipeg lab, and we've seen it in numerous instances. Can he elaborate on the pattern of behavior that he's seeing?
The honourable member for Edmonton West, like 10 seconds.
Where there's smoke, there's fire, and there's more smoke of the corruption from this government than we saw over Jasper this summer. Thank you.